Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. And a 19.
Beat Robb, Jim, Packard, J. King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah!
Shut your ass up, man.
Daddy's always halfway there.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Boston Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's internet. I am Sam Jam Packard, professional sports fan, and I'm joined by the original kid, God, and legend himself from The Athletic, Jay King. And we are the hosts of Still Poddable. We are coming to you today. This is the weekly free episode. That means we are on the CLNS YouTube page. We're brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app. If you guys enjoy this show, this free episode, we are giving you great Celtics content every day of the week, Monday through Friday. So make sure to go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. And we got you there every single day, Monday through Friday. You can become a kid, God, or legend yourself. Jay?
I got to stop you. You are the softest Boston Celtics podcaster of all time.
You know, what do the Celtics say? There's like when the game speaks for itself, the whispers get louder, Jay. And I think
that was like
that's a bar.
That was a good line. I'm not gonna lie. Was that quoting something, or did they come up with that all by themselves?
I feel like whoever came up with that, I don't know. I'm Googling it right now. But that's like I'm not used to it. That's the crazy thing. A lot of people have criticized Jayson Tatum over the years. I feel like there's been so much Jayson Tatum discourse, especially with the Olympics this past summer, where he got those DNPs. And there's always been a discussion of like Jayson Tatum's not a top 5 player. Jayson Tatum isn't this, he isn't that. He can't be the like best guy in a championship team. Even him saying he has no aura and stuff like that after they won the championship. And like, oh, Jaylen Brown won the finals MVP. Has Jayson Tatum ever really like clapped back or commented on that? Because there's nothing I can like, really.
There was a time like when Perkins shitted on Tatum. He's clapped back at Kendrick Perkins before, I think. Not really, but he said something like normalize uplifting one person without putting down another or something like that.
That's a more positive message.
I can't really remember him clapping back too many times.
It's just not his personality. It's like not his thing. He downplays everything.
Somebody put it on Twitter, an old clip of Tatum in some podcast saying that one of the things he hates is when people call him soft.
That's
so
good.
So it might just be like the thing that ruffles his feathers enough that he decides what the fuck. And for him, it's crazy to me because I thought after the Celtics not just won a title, but trounced everybody en route to a title, that they would come back and at least for a while there would be just a ceasefire on Jayson Tatum. And instead, it's gone the other way around. There's just no shortage of people out there, you know, ready to put him down, even though he's well on his way to a 4th straight first-team All-NBA season in all likelihood. He's had probably the best season of his career. And then he's got Brandon Jennings, of all people, chirping him from the cheap seats.
Do you think it was like Brandon Jennings is like pissed him off a little bit and it's like coming from him? I don't even really get the criticism because there's things you can critique about Jayson Tatum's game, but I don't think like soft is the thing I would ever come to mind. The guy plays more games than anyone else in the league. He's not like someone who's going to be up in your face, like fighting.
I think that's what it is.
is that he's not like he gets a lot of
that he's
technical.
not screaming at you. He's not gonna ever go full Dylan Brooks or even like mild Dylan Brooks. He's just not gonna do that. And I think that's why the commentary about softness, which is crazy, after the guy just led the Celtics in points, rebounds, and assists on the way to an easy championship and a 64-win season. And he's been first team All-NBA 3 times. Like, you don't do that if you're soft. You don't get through the losses that the Celtics have gotten through and make it to the other side with a championship if you're soft. You just don't. But believe it or not, so I watched this clip before there was backlash to it. I have muted Gilbert Arenas' name on Twitter. I think it's the only thing because he just has malarkey takes, like absolutely malarkey takes.
Intentionally, I don't even know if it's intentional. He just feels like he says wild shit no matter what. It invites a weird brand of NBA player. All the people who are on that show, it's my former employer, the Underdog Fantasy, but it's like Nick Young, Rashard McCants, and Brandon Jennings. They all just kind of have out there and like real stubborn opinions that feel like I'm trying to determine if it's intentionally inflammatory, like, because it doesn't feel like first takey to me. It just feels like they have bad takes and they genuinely believe them.
I think they genuinely believe bad takes is what it is. But yeah, I muted Gilbert Arenas because his takes would piss me off. Like his takes about the entire league, I would get him in my For You column and it would just be like, I'd be enraged for no reason whatsoever. And so I just decided to get that rage out of my life and mute Gilbert Arenas. However, when Brandon Jennings is on Gilbert Arenas' show, that was not muted because it was Brandon Jennings, not Gilbert Arenas saying it. So I did watch it. And there's a huge difference between calling a guy soft and saying he's the softest Boston Celtics superstar. Because if you're calling a guy just soft versus he's softer than like Bill Russell and Larry Bird, you know, like depending on how you define superstar here, like you're calling him softer than some all-time greats. And so I do think there's a distinction there. But and then also later in the clip, Gilbert Arenas was like baffled. Yeah, I was on Gilbert's side on this one. Gilbert was like, he's averaging 28. Like, how soft is this guy? Gilbert probably said that because he averaged 28 a couple years. Didn't consider himself soft. Wanted to let it be known that he was not soft. But then Brandon Jennings kind of walked it back, and he's like, soft probably isn't the right word. So so he did say it, and then he took it back, and then they had a whole conversation about it. I think what he's trying to say is that you don't always get a ton of emotion out of Jayson Tatum.
Which is a fair, like, I don't even think it's a critique.
It shouldn't be a critique.
That's a true.
But some people think it is a critique. You know,
yeah,
some people think he doesn't have enough fire in him. And it's like, okay, but he destroys people in clutch games. He had 50-something in a game 7. He had 50-something in a play-in game when the Celtics needed to win. He's had series where he outplayed Kevin Durant. He's had series like the dude
on the road, game 6 against the Bucks. I saw that
one of the best elimination game on the road performances maybe we've ever seen.
I saw the highlight package of that game recently. Tomac, the guy who puts together all the Simpsons clips. He was so good in that
Simpsons
game.
Clips, did you say?
If I did, that's not what I.
Maybe that's what I heard. I think you said all the Simpsons clips, all the Celtics clips.
Celtics clips. Simpsons clips would be a wild venture for Tomac. But Tatum was so good in that game, just absolutely dominant. And that's a game 6 on the road that they needed to win. But he also looked smaller in that game, like compared to now. He has gotten so much bigger. That was my big takeaway and observation. The thing, like the distinction about he's the softest Celtics superstar. Like, what kind of conversation is that? Like, who's the softest Lakers superstar? Who's the softest Bulls superstar? Like, it's just like a weird thing. Take away the word super. Who's the softest Celtics star?
We're going to have a discussion right now about who actually is the Celtics softest.
I asked this to chat, and people, there was the obvious answer. but I don't know if I would have characterized this guy as soft, but everyone immediately said Kyrie. And did Kyrie give up on the team? Yes. Is Kyrie a big-time liar? Yes. Was Kyrie disgruntled and make the locker room bad? Yes. But I never really questioned Kyrie's toughness. Maybe mental toughness, but I would not describe Kyrie Irving as soft.
I think we have an obvious answer. I just looked up all the Celtics Hall of Famers. Most of them are incredible NBA basketball players. The other is Dino Raja. Dino Raja
is soft?
I would not label him a superstar. He's in the Hall of Fame, though. Was Dino Raja soft? That was one of the worst defenders of all time. I believe he once said that if he scores on one side, it's okay to give up a bucket on the other.
I did not know this about Dino. Dino's like
I don't know if that's a direct quote. Please don't hold me to that. But
like I'm generally aware of Dino, but like he was.
But I wouldn't call him a superstar. He's in the Hall of Fame. Horrible Hall of Fame pick. Like I know he did a lot of stuff overseas, but he did it overseas because he wasn't good enough to do that in the NBA.
I still think calling him a star is excessive. He was not a star for his 4 years while he was in the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Okay. Dino's disqualified.
It's no one from the big three like the 08 team. Would you call Ray Allen soft for going to Miami after a simple trade request?
I bet Brandon Jennings might call Ray Allen soft.
Well, the thing you said about Brandon Jennings, he walked it back. Then Tatum puts his little caption on Instagram, and Brandon Jennings has not walked it back, fueled a little bit by Drew Hanlon going to bat for his guy. Drew Hanlon's coming out firing at Brandon Jennings. But then Brandon Jennings like, oh, I'm going to be there in June. I'm going to be sitting courtside. It's like their show got canceled, and they're like, it's too bad because like I would have had some stuff for Jayson Tatum. The funniest thing about Brandon Jennings,
their show got canceled.
No, because of the fires in LA, not like.
Oh, I thought you meant it was over. I thought this was like the last take they released out into the world.
That would be wild.
I was gonna say that. I'm surprised I missed that news.
But Brandon Jennings posted on his Instagram these like infographics that must have been from 2019, where it was like ranking Jayson Tatum compared to all the Celtics stars, and it had Jayson Tatum's career points per game at 19 points per game. And so he's just like, Brandon Jennings is so in his feelings or just like on the offensive that he's posting Facebook graphics from more than 5 years ago. It just turned into like a weird,
because he's averaging 23 and a half points a game in his career at this point.
That's actually a lot lower than I would have anticipated.
Well, he played as a 19-year-old and
on a team
averaged
with
like
a bunch
13
of
points a game or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So lately it's been a lot more than that, but it takes you a little while to overcome the first couple of years when you weren't scoring all that much.
Do you think that this whatever kerfuffle brouhaha changes the way Jayson Tatum plays the rest of the season? Because if I had to guess, I would say can't get too high, can't get too low. It's going to approach the game the exact same way because that's who Jayson Tatum is. And he's just not like a guy who seems fueled by, and frankly, I'm still kind of surprised he mentioned anything on his Instagram.
Yeah, I'm surprised he fought back at this one. Like it's
giving it so much more weight than it needs.
No, I mean, offense. I was going to say no offense, but offense. Like it's Brandon Jennings. This is not like somebody on ESPN's top show. It's not Stephen A. Smith, who has a lot of clout in the sports broadcasting world. It's not a former player who's an all-time great who's bashing you, taking a shot at you. It's just some guy who has like a barbershop type TV show or streaming show.
He's not even the main guy. He's a bit player on a barbershop TV show on a network that employed me, of all people.
Yeah, so I am surprised he took the time out of his day to come back at this one. But like to me, it all comes back to, I think those guys, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, thought they would win a title and all that shit would go away. and everyone would give them their flowers, and everyone would bow down to them, and everyone would say, you know what? Whatever we've said about you in the past, it doesn't apply anymore. You guys are champions. And instead, they found that that's not how it works. At least that's not how it works for them. And all the same stuff they used to hear is still there.
Which is kind of wild. Like, I understood it. I feel like KD went through the same thing when he went to the Warriors, where he thought like, oh, I won my championships now. You can't say shit about me. And I kind of understood that because it was like he was joining the 72-win Warriors, and it's this super team. But like, there is such a thing in the NBA, like rings culture is something that we talk about. And being a champion is like, feels like it's so sometimes overvalued, where it's like you can diminish a guy's career because he never got that ring. And so for the Celtics to finally accomplish it, and then just, it's really confusing what the exact like genesis is, or the reason why that criticism hasn't abated at all. It's because the Celtics were too good.
That's a good word.
I've been to school once or twice. But like, were they too good last
Ivy
year?
League degrees. Our old school listeners will appreciate that one.
You can see the Ivy League right there. From
he once lied that he had 2 Ivy League degrees because I had him so flustered.
Well, but Bowdoin
he was
College
so pissed off at me that he claimed he had 2 Ivy League degrees when he didn't.
Many people think of Bowdoin College as the Ivy of Maine. Just saying.
I mean, you should be proud of the NESCAC.
It's okay.
No, it's great. Trinity College, amazing men's basketball team this year.
Are they want to win the G3 national championship?
They have a real shot. My brother's an assistant coach there.
Oh, shout out to.
They just lost their first game there the other day. They were, I believe, 13-0.
Swept the NESCAC.
Fell to Babson.
Actually, Bowdoin College almost beat Harvard like 2 days ago. They lost by 4 points, which is crazy. Like,
the NESCAC is legit this year. NESCAC is always legit, but this year especially, there's like a bunch of really, really good teams.
Well, if you wanted to go see, some NESCAC basketball or maybe some Boston Celtics basketball, I have a way for you to do it. Download the Game Time app. The Game Time app is the easiest way for you to get tickets to sports, to concerts, comedy, theater. You have all-in pricing, and it shows the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if they don't have the lowest price. And there's Game Time ticket coverage that be guaranteed to be delivered to you on time, or your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, but create that account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Jay, it's time for one of our weekly segments. One that got a shout-out from Abby Chin on your, what do you call that? Power Rangers podcast, the meeting of all the podcasts.
The Avengers, Celtics Avengers.
Now, the fun part about that podcast for me as a raging narcissist is that I did get like a mention in like the first 30 seconds. So that was cool. I did feel good about that. But Abby Chin's favorite segment is you had to call it stuff, Joe says, but we call it here shit, Joe says. And this is where we like to highlight the most interesting head coach in the National Basketball Association, because he's saying weird stuff this entire, just before games, after games. And the first one's directly related to what we were just talking about. He said earlier in the year that he would like to have coins. Every person has a coin. Maybe
5 coins.
5 coins.
5 coins.
And if you get angered or upset, you get to turn one of those coins in and immediately challenge that person to fisticuffs. And when asked about the Brandon Jennings comments, he said Tatum should have used his coin, which I think is awesome, but something Tatum would never do.
Wouldn't it be so funny if he could just, before the next game, just fight Brandon Jennings at center court?
Talk about the NBA ratings. People would tune in for that. If you just give him like a couple rounds as center court, that would be wild.
people would absolutely tune in for that. And then you'd have to really whip his ass, because if he calls you soft, you can't let him be in that fight.
How tall is Brandon?
You got to just
Jayson Tatum was like dwarfs Brandon Jennings.
I think he's like 6'3".
I would favor Jayson Tatum in that fight, even though he doesn't seem like a fighter. What's the angriest you've seen Tatum at another player during a game? Because I feel like we've seen JB get in a lot of guys' faces, but I can't remember Tatum like jawing at someone specifically. I
would say the angriest he ever was at Grant Williams, but he didn't like go at Grant Williams at all. He just did what he does, which is just bounce up, pretend like he's not affected by getting hit, or in this case, tackled by Grant Williams. That was probably the most pissed off he's been, I would think.
But like, I can't remember any moment of him like jarring in the face of some guy or like talking shit to a specific person, or like
how crazy would the crowd go if he was at TD Garden and just started going nuts on someone? I think the crowd would love that more than anything in the world, because he is usually reserved, because he doesn't talk a lot of shit, because he doesn't, like, he did the too small gesture the other day against Peyton Watson. It was like, what? Jayson Tatum's doing that? That's out of character.
Even if he got like when Joe got ejected earlier in the year and he had to be held back, even if he just did that, like after like a clapping ejection and had to be, I just can't imagine Jayson Tatum ever having to be held back from a fight like that. The Garden would go fucking insane.
It would go nuts.
And whoever he did against would immediately become.
Maybe he's just saving it for a game they need it. If anyone would tell you to know the power of that and to like let you know that could just be a tool to use in case the Celtics are in need of like a lift, it would be Joe Mazzulla, because he's all about psychological warfare. He's all about, he calls it like, what does he call it? Manipulating the environment. And that would be one hell of a way to manipulate the environment. If they were down like 5 in a playoff game and he just started going at like Evan Mobley, like just forehead to forehead with Evan Mobley, the crowd would go fucking bonkers. I think he's got to do it at some point now. Now that the more that I talk about it, the more he's got to threaten to fight someone, so that
that'd
the
be
TD
wild
Garden
if
crowd
gets
would go
ejected,
crazy.
but it completely changes the tenor of the game. He swings a playoff series. Who do you think the player is who's most likely to draw that ire? I have an idea, and unfortunately, he just I think tore his ACL. But I do think it was going to be Mo Wagner.
but Mo wouldn't guard him. Right? I feel like it'd be somebody who was guarding him all the time. I'm trying to think of somebody who it could be in the East.
Josh Hart?
That's like, it could be like Lou Dort.
I could see
like
that.
Lou Dort just kind of frustrates you, and
Andrew Nemhard.
and he's super physical.
Aaron Nesmith.
All of a sudden, you just swing on Lou Dort and change the
like
entire NBA Finals.
It would be like something like Nesmith doing something dangerous, and Tatum just be like, I am a superstar here. Like, you are threatening my livelihood with your crash shenanigans. That's like what I could see kind of like trying to bring him over the edge.
The more we talk about it, I really think he's got to do it at some point, because the crowd would reach a high it almost never reaches.
It's like you're down 6 with like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
That type of reaction. If Jayson Tatum was in someone's face, just going crazy,
and then turned around and did like a "let's go," and then did it to the crowd, it would be a wild moment. I think he needs to do it.
It would be electric. The other part of Brandon Jennings' comments was that he said he would be more afraid of Jaylen Brown on the court than Jayson Tatum.
Does he mean basketball wise or physically? Because Jaylen Brown.
I think he means basketball wise. Because I think what he's trying to say is like, and I'm not going to agree with him here, but I will acknowledge this. Like last year, I thought Jaylen Brown set the tone for the Celtics. He was just on an absolute mission the whole season. He was on a mission in the playoffs. He was not going to let them slip at all. And he has that ability. Joe mentioned it after he had a great game against the Pacers. He had 40-something points against the Pacers. And he had a bunch of like steals and big dunks that set the crowd crazy. And Joe said he just kind of has a gift for using his physicality to ignite his team, the crowd, everything. And Tatum does it in a different way, but so I understand almost. I'm like giving Brandon Jennings way too much credit here because this is not what he meant.
If talking about like physical impact on the court, I can hear the argument in terms of like who's going to take it to you, who's like most physically pounding, hurt, like felt by the other team. I feel like, yes, that's Jaylen Brown because of what he does on defense, but just because he feels like a more aggressive player. But just in terms of like strictly basketball, Jayson Tatum's a phenomenal, like just, I wouldn't say he's leaps ahead of Jaylen Brown, but I think he's clearly just like a much more dangerous basketball player. But I agree with you. If it's just terms of like imposing their will on the game, it feels like Jaylen Brown has a much more ability to do that with his like defense. Like, sure, Tatum can do that, but Tatum does that when he hits like 7 threes in a game rather than this like not letting a guy cross half court.
Yeah. And they have two different brands of basketball, totally different brands of basketball, and it works out perfectly. It's so dumb to call him soft. And it's so dumb to question the heart of somebody who has been through as many bad losses and tough losses as Jayson Tatum had and come out on the other side. Like, how many teams have been absolutely broken by getting deep in the playoffs, by having failure, and then you just never reach that level again? And these guys had so much of it. They had the Kyrie year when everything went wrong. They had the devastating loss to the Heat in the conference finals, where they came back from 3-0 and lost Game 7 on their home court by 20. They've had I don't know what was back to even when they went to the finals the first time, when they absolutely blew Game 5 at home against Milwaukee after leading by 12 points, I believe, in the fourth quarter. And then you have to win on the road. Jayson Tatum had like 46 on the road against Drew Holiday, a lot of those buckets. It's like, this is the guy you're going to call soft, the guy who is always in the conference finals, the guy who just won the championship, the guy who's been to the finals twice and learned the first time he was in the finals that he couldn't do that shit again, and then came back the second finals and shot like shit, but didn't let it affect anything else, and still led the Celtics in points, rebounds, and assists, and still dominated games, and still was everything for the Celtics. That's the guy you're going to call soft, the guy whose shot can go totally missing for an entire playoffs and still lead his team to a 16-3 record in that playoffs, and still plays some of his best basketball ever in that playoffs, despite the shooting. I just don't get it. It's so dumb to call Jayson Tatum soft because he's not in your face barking.
It's a really just bad choice of words or trying to explain I guess if the point you're trying to make is like the physicality difference, but they're just like, it's like not great vocabulary there from Brandon Jennings.
I mean, if you're putting him up against Bill Russell and Larry Bird, who knows? What do you think the cutoff was for Boston Celtics superstar?
Is Paul Pierce a superstar?
I don't know.
Because then it's like a lot of respect if you're putting Tatum in the
that's what I'm saying here. That's what I'm saying here. Like, softest Boston Celtics superstar. It's a small group of players. I don't know exactly how large it is. I don't know how he defined superstar, but you know how dumb it is because he went back at Brandon Jennings on Instagram, and then Jennings in the comment section was like, "That's the energy I wanted from you." You don't want him to just play winning basketball. You don't want him to just possession after possession do the right thing.
You want him to be petty on Instagram?
You don't want him to guard fives and rebound as well as any wing and guide one of the best offenses ever you don't care about that, but he'll go back at you on Instagram, and that's the shit that you judge your players on. Like, did you think Nick Young was a tough basketball player? Your podcast co-host? Because he sure as hell wasn't. Hell no, he wasn't.
No.
Hell no. That's a soft dude. That's a soft dude. A dude who will shoot terrible shots, who won't play defense. That's a soft dude. Brandon Jennings. He was kind of soft too.
Yeah, he scored 55 points once, though. So that's his whole career. I got one more shit Joe says. Maybe this was only amusing to me, but Bobby Manning in Oklahoma City asked him about the Celtics having a better record when Jayson Tatum has a higher usage rate. And Joe just was like, no, usage rate's a bad stat. Dumb stat, bad question. And it just really it really amused me.
Well, he also asked, he put him on the spot and he asked him the formula for usage rate.
Oh, did he? Did Bobby get it?
Bobby sort of got it. He was on the right path. And yeah, Joe after that, he said something to a group of us. And I was like, you put him on the spot. I was like, he handled that okay. He's like, yeah, he did a pretty good job. So salute to Bobby Manning.
I'm putting you on the spot. What's the formula?
It's a calculation of the percentage of possessions that end in a turnover or basket, I believe, or assist.
Yeah, but there's different percentages, like for free throws and assists and made field goals. To know that off the spot, you'd have to be a real nerd analytics person. And so kudos to Bobby for figuring that out. If you think you're a statistics person, then maybe you should join our friends Prize Picks and get some money. I mean, basketball season's heating up. We got the NFL playoffs, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot up to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And so go on Prize Picks today. I would just do Jayson Tatum over on rebounds because I feel like he's just been getting double-digit rebounds left and right. But download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app, promo code CLNS for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Jay, it's time for Moment of the Week. Now, it's been a while since we've done Moment of the Week, so I'm going to put it to Moment of the year, Moment of the
Which year are we talking about? The last calendar year, this calendar year, this season? What? I needed that better defined.
2025, the past 4 games, the road trip. What was the moment of the road trip?
The moment of the road trip. Honorable mention has to be DeAndre Jordan trying to dunk on Kristaps Porzingis because that was hilarious.
That was great.
He tried to take off from forever. Like, that was an insane attempt by DeAndre Jordan in the year 2025.
Sometimes you just got to see if your body still has it.
It does not, but he almost got up there. Definitely nothing from the second half of the Thunder game.
That might be the moment is the second half. It was like it's the most, like, maybe not a positive moment, but like the thing that stands out the most is how bad that second half was in terms of offense.
It was jarring. It really was jarring. They just could not score, turn the ball over constantly. Oklahoma City, I mean, their defense is just, they've lapped the field in defensive efficiency, and they do an amazing job at forcing turnovers. And that's like, I don't know if you can trust them to carry that over completely in the playoffs, because when you're playing the best offenses all the time, it's just really hard to turn people over to get in transition. That's one reason why they might not be quite as good a playoff team as they have been, like a regular season juggernaut. But that half, I mean, nobody's made the Celtics offense look like that in a long time.
It was bad. It was is just bad spacing, but just like the physicality of it all. And they foul a lot. And it feels like however much the refs let them get away with like all that physical contact. If the Celtics were they definitely missed some shots, but they definitely made some like bad
Would
rim
you say
reads.
Jayson Tatum was too soft?
I personally wouldn't say that. I'm not going to use my platform to advance that, because then what if he posted an Instagram comment about me? That would actually kind of make my day, but I don't.
That would make your life, not just your day, your life. You would be glowing if he made an Instagram.
Not if he made one about me because of negative stuff I said about him. I think I'd feel pretty embarrassed about that.
No,
I'm supposed to be a professional Celtics fan. If I was a Celtics fan, I become public enemy number 2 after Brandon Jennings in the Jayson Tatum verse. I don't think that's good for us.
Thrilled that he referenced you. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
That Jayson Tatum was listening to your takes. You'd be.
Who says he isn't? Who says he isn't?
I mean, he should be.
We got members of the coaching staff subscribed here, so they could be playing in the locker room. Who knows?
Yeah, they should be.
I got a question for you, and we can finish out the pod on this.
Well, we still haven't finished moment of the week. We're just
I thought we went with moment of the week.
The entire bad second half.
That's the moment
of the week.
That's the moment that stands out to me. Kristaps getting kicked in the nuts was pretty funny.
Derek White's bank shot against the Timberwolves.
That was a good moment. Definitely a good moment.
Anthony Edwards losing his scruples in his post-game press conference after the Celtics game.
Scruples was not a word I was expecting you to say, but he lost his scruples. His scruples were nowhere to be found after that.
That's a King family thing. Lost your scruples.
Losing your scruples?
Yeah,
How often?
I think my cousin started that. And he used to say whenever someone lost their shit, it'd be losing their scruples.
When's the last time you lost your scruples?
I mean, probably in a basketball game. I don't know when the last time it really was, but it had to be on the basketball court. That's kind of the only time I lose my scruples these days.
Scruples, I just had to look it up, is a feeling of doubt or hesitation with regard to the morality or propriety of a course of action. It is also a unit of weight equal to 20 grains used by apothecaries historically. So we learned something today. What's the moment of the week, Jay? Declare one moment of the week.
I mean, we got to go with the second half against the Thunder. I think you were right on, because that's what's going to stick with you. You know, the other games, good wins. The Rockets win, I thought, was an amazing win because that was a tough back-to-back, and they just kicked their ass with physical defense. But that second half, man, that's like the first time you think about doubts, right? Like you're the fan here. Were you in your head where you're like, you know what? I haven't worried about any of the slippage over the last month, but that half against that defense. Did you start to have doubts?
I didn't have doubts. Maybe I had doubts. I think I heard Coley say this on 3 Times the Chart, but it's like last year it was like no one's beating the Boston Celtics. This year, and this kind of goes to my question, there are 2 teams that are having historically good seasons this year in the Cavs and Thunder, and I still think I would pick the Celtics beating them in a playoff series. Kristaps Porzingis definitely has to be there. I don't think it's the type of thing where they can coast in the playoffs without Kristaps Porzingis. But it's the type, like, they're playing such good basketball in the regular season that you wouldn't be surprised in a playoff series loss to the Cavs or Thunder at this point. I would be surprised if they lost to the Knicks. I'd be surprised if they lost to anyone else in the East. I would be surprised, frankly, if they lost to any other team. Maybe the Nuggets still have a chance just because I fear Jokic, and Nuggets beat them twice last year. But that goes to my question is okay, so the bad half against the Thunder really kind of does stick out. The Cavs are having a phenomenal year. They're 6 games up on the Celtics right now? They play the Thunder again in Boston, I think in March. I'm not sure if they play the Cavs again. But knowing that they have these two teams out there, like they were lapping the field last year and just were like far and away the best team. Knowing that there are these teams out there that are going to make it a lot more competitive, what are you looking for from the Celtics to like, do they need to show anything? Are there certain championship habits? Because I remember last year they lost 2 games to the Hawks down the stretch. Like that didn't really mean anything. I mentioned the 2 Nuggets losses like that. These regular season games don't necessarily matter as much for that long-term potential. But I'm just curious if you think it changes the Celtics necessarily approach, their intensity, their focus on, I mean, we're not even halfway through the season yet, but it's clear that there's these 2 juggernauts one waiting for them in the East and one potentially waiting for them in the West.
Yeah, so I don't think I need to see anything from them because we've seen their best basketball, and we know that if they reach that level during the playoffs,
but
they'll
we
be
haven't seen
insanely
it this year.
hard to beat.
We haven't seen them
That's
fully
true.
healthy, and we haven't seen them play it this year.
I think you just want to see their starting lineup, especially, and their main guys with Kristaps available, just start to refigure things out. Because
So you do need to see something.
It's been clunky. No, I think they'll be okay. I don't think – I have no doubts that at some point over the next 4 months they'll remember how to play basketball with a lineup that was one of the best in the league last season and that was pivotal to them whenever it was available during the playoffs. I'm not going to forget Kristaps' game 1 against Dallas after he was out for a month. And then he absolutely just decimated them. I'm not going to forget that. And I think something Joe Mazzulla said recently was really smart. He said basically, like, there's no blueprint for what a championship looks like. Like last year, obviously things went easily for them. They never lost more than 2 in a row. They only lost 3 games in the playoffs. They were pretty healthy throughout most of the season, with the exception of Kristaps, particularly Kristaps in the playoffs. But it doesn't always look that way. Like sometimes you do have lulls in the regular season. Sometimes you have a month where you just don't have it. Sometimes you have a month where, you know, the starting lineup that used to be so good is just figuring out how to play together because Kristaps was out for a long time and has been in and out of the lineup since. Everybody else kind of had a little bit more room to operate without him. And now they're just all kind of taking a step back and learning how to adapt to Kristaps being back. And so I think Joe was right. Like, and that's why I say, like, there's nothing I have to see from this team. That being said, they could lose. And sometimes some of the things that pop up in the regular season that you're not concerned about are actually concerns. And maybe you're right. Like maybe there is room for that lineup not being quite as good as it was last year. But
it has
I think
it has a negative net rating at
negative 11.
Yeah, and it was a positive 11 last year. And so I have faith in their ability to like get that back, but I would have a lot more faith if I saw some examples of that this season. And I understand a lot of that. It's like a very small sample size because they just haven't had that starting lineup fully healthy to start this year. But I think in terms of familiarity and building habits and like being able to rely on that, you would just like to see a stretch of basketball where they rip off 8 of 10 or something. And like that starting lineup plays incredibly well together. They've been able to kind of survive this because Peyton Pritchard has stepped up and other guys have stepped up in the moments, and they're still an extremely talented basketball team. But I think that's what I'm looking for is, and obviously there's still going to be injuries, and it might even be beneficial to be in the playoffs and, have comfortability playing with a bunch of different lineups and a bunch of different guys, because you never know what injuries are going to happen. But if I'm looking for one thing, that starting lineup shouldn't have a minus 11 net rating. And I think you want that. If I'm just like, you want that that starting that killer lineup to be able to come in and just play their best basketball. Because I don't feel like we've seen the Celtics play their best basketball. Like is there once this season. I can't point to one game was like was absolutely perfect. Yeah, they kicked the shit out of the Pacers. They've had some big wins, but it's never been like with their full complement of guys. I take it back. I stand corrected. Knicks on opening night went pretty fucking crazy. That was their best basketball. But since then, it feels like it's been a lot of ups and downs. And so I'd just like to get back to absolutely destroyed some teams. It doesn't need to happen every night, but I think that's just from the dumb fan perspective, which this is. I think it would be nice knowing that there's these big challenges out there in Cleveland, in Oklahoma City. I would just like to see the dominant kind of Boston Celtics return, at least for some stretch here this regular season.
Yeah, you probably want to see it at least for a little while. Like, it's funny that we're like sitting here like, oh, they haven't really played that well. They haven't played up to their standard.
They're having a historic season themselves.
Yeah, and then you look at it, and it's like, actually, like these dudes have an insane net rating.
60 win pace. Yeah, like one of the best net ratings in history.
10.4 net rating. They're 6th in defense now, which is climbing. They're 2nd in offense. It's like,
yeah, but
still got the profile of a champion or high level championship contender.
But there's two teams out there are just as good. So it is,
yeah, like, and that's the difference. I think it's more that the league is different now than that the Celtics are different. Like, you're not gonna go and play like a weak ass Cleveland team in round 1, and then, or that was round 2. You're not gonna play Jimmy Butler-less Miami team in round 1, then a weak ass Cleveland team in round 2, then an Indiana team with no defense to speak of in the conference finals, and all those teams have injuries, and then Dallas, which is a flawed team in the finals. So like, you're not going to have that path again. It's not going to be that easy.
And the rest of the league has like raised its game, and so it's like iron sharpens iron. You kind of want to see the Celtics raise their game too. It may be an unfair ask because they're, like you said, they're playing pretty phenomenal basketball right now, but after thoroughly being like a step above every single other team in the NBA last year, well, the other teams kind of challenged them. You kind of want to see the Celtics rise to that challenge. If that happens, we will have it covered for you right here on Still Poddable. We are here for you every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. So go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. Subscribe today. Jay King is pointing at you if you're watching on the video. He's talking to you. Patreon.com/stillpoddable. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back next week talking about the Kings game, the Pelicans game, and everything else going on in the world of Celtics basketball. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Still Poddable!
Still Poddable, Still Poddable, Boston, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh, yeah! Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.